Hey, welcome back to Lady Tradie. Today I am going to revamp this dresser. It comes with a matching mirror and drawer as well. Hopefully it doesn't need a lot of work, so I'm going to walk you through just doing a light resurfacing on this. So the first thing that we need to do is remove the handles. That'll then allow me to give it a nice sand. So I will lightly sand the top, the front and the sides of this before giving it a really good clean. After it's clean and dry, I can go in and give it 2 coats of paint. Today I'm using a white chalk paint that I've used before and I like. In between coats of chalk paint, I recommend lightly sanding if you want to give it a nice smooth finish, which is what I'm going to do today. The final step then, once the chalk paint is dry, is to varnish the entire cabinet. I want to keep this a nice natural timber on top, so today I will use a water-based varnish because I find that it doesn't yellow, it stays in a natural clear color once it's set. I'm also going to use that over the entire cabinet. That way the chalk paint is protected and it just helps with bumps and scratches and wear and tear over time. Finally, once everything is dry, I will put some new handles on because some of these are broken, so that in order that they all match, I'm just going to fork out the money and get some new handles for the entire cabinet, and then it should be finished and it should look beautiful. I'm often asked what direction to paint when doing furniture like this. So what I would recommend is follow the natural line of the timber. So either follow the grain of the timber, the direction of the grain, or if you've got this long continuous leg, you want to follow that vertically. Whereas if I have a panel across here that is sitting horizontally, I'm going to paint that horizontally. Now I know it sounds strange that I will have some going in this direction and some going in that, but if it's the natural flow of the timber, it actually makes sense and it looks good, and that's what you want to be doing. What looks strange is if you see brush strokes going vertically down over this small section of timber, when it can quite clearly be seen that the grain of the timber is going in the other direction. So you never want to cause like a crisscross of the grain of the timber and your brush strokes. You want to make sure that the brush strokes follow the timber. If you can't see the grain because it's already painted, you follow the line of the panel. Okay, like I was saying before. So I'll follow this down, follow that across, and follow this vertically as well. It looks as though I'm being pretty rough with how I paint sometimes, and that's because I'm trying to make sure that I get in all the little nooks and grooves, but I always go over panels really smoothly, keeping my lines really parallel at the end, because not only does that look better when it's finished, but you will see less brush strokes, and when you sand, it'll give you a much smoother finish at the end. Now, like I mentioned earlier, keep your lines of your brush strokes nice and parallel, and keep horizontal edges horizontal and the vertical edges vertical. So take your time and just really carefully go over those vertical edges and make sure that it looks really nice and neat.
Mommy.
So I went to replace the handles on the cabinet. So there is about 10 handles needed on both of these, and I couldn't get matching ones with what I already had on here. So I've had to buy new handles, and as it turned out, there is nothing available in the size that I needed. So what I mean by that is the gap between the screw holes that already exist is a really strange amount that is not sold in regular hardware stores. So I've had to purchase the closest thing that I could get, which, as you can see, doesn't quite reach the second hole. So I'm going to talk you through how to deal with this and what I'm going to do. So this is another reason why going white is good. Perhaps plan ahead, check out your hardware stuff before you go ahead and paint, because if you do need to fill holes and re-drill, it's best to do that before repainting. So make sure you do all that prior. Can you stop attacking me, please? I'm trying to work. All right, so these are the handles that I am going to put on. I think they match the style of the cabinetry really well, but as you can see, that hole is just slightly in the wrong place. So what I do is grab a pencil and then drop that side down and mark where you need to drill the new hole. Now, as you can see, I've already screwed this in. That makes that much easier. And now I can go through and drill that hole in the correct position. I've chosen my drill bit just based on which one is exactly the same size. So I can pop that into the drill and drill that. Now it is going to be so close to this that it is likely to just form a really large hole, which can be a problem because it could cause this to move around. But because I'm only moving one hole and not both, because this one is still really securely held in place, that one's not going to move around. I don't recommend drilling 2 new holes for that reason. Now the other thing is, how come I've chosen this one to keep in the same position and move this one? Well, I just feel like if the center one remains in the same spot, it looks like it's in the right place, whereas it doesn't matter so much if the external ones move a little bit. So I'm going to keep all of the central ones in the right place and move the external sides in. Now, before I go screwing that in, I need to do something about my existing hole. Now, I will be using a multi-purpose filler to fill this up. It's white, which helps when you're doing it on a white cabinet, but obviously if you plan ahead a little bit better than what I did and you do this prior to painting, you won't even know it's there. Way too much on there. Now, because I have already painted it, I'm going to wipe away all of that excess so that I've just filled the hole. Once I move this around, you won't even notice that half a little bit of fill that's there. But ideally, what you do is wipe away all that excess, wait for it to dry, give it a light paint over the top again so that it's all consistent, and then you can screw in your second hole.